She demanded money for her ex. I sold her car. The impossible demand. The way she marched into the living room, I figured maybe she'd found a spider or the apocalypse. She had that wide-eyed panic that usually means something's either on fire or crawling. But no, this time it wasn't danger, it was delusion. She slammed the stack of papers onto the coffee table like she was serving legal notice, locked eyes with me, and said the one line I never saw coming. I need you to help Jason's business. It's failing. That's right. My wife walked in one random Tuesday and demanded I fund her ex-boyfriend's collapsing dream. For about 5 full seconds, I laughed. Like, genuinely laughed, thinking it was some weird bit. My wife, the woman who once refused to loan her cousin $50, now wanted me to invest in her ex-boyfriend's failing business. There was no way she was serious. Then she started flipping through the papers, cost breakdowns, investment tiers, expected returns, like a Shark Tank contestant who'd lost track of reality halfway through a PowerPoint. I leaned back on the couch, waiting for the punchline. Surely this was about to pivot into some kind of charity idea or guilt trip about community support. But nope, she'd printed the whole thing. Look, she said, tapping a spreadsheet. He only needs $25,000 to finish development. And once the loans were paid, we'll have equity. Equity. She said it like it was a wedding vow. That's when it hit me. She wasn't joking. I studied her face, trying to find even a glimmer of irony, some sign she realized how absurd this sounded. Nothing. Just pure conviction. Pure I've already decided and you'll catch up later energy. Wait, I said slowly, trying to buy myself time. You mean Jason? You're Jason? The one who calls himself a business consultant, but still lives with his sister? She sighed like I was missing the point. He's trying to get on his feet again. And you know, I believe in helping people. Helping people. Right. Except this wasn't people. This was him. The same guy she cried over for a year before we met. The same one who couldn't keep a job longer than a Netflix trial. My jaw tightened, but I tried to keep my tone even. You can't be serious. Her eyes didn't flinch. I am. And just like that, the air between us thickened. It wasn't infidelity, but it might as well have been. Because this wasn't about money, it was about loyalty. Mine to her, hers to someone else. She went on about potential profits, the vision, the human story behind the product. Every word made me feel like my living room was morphing into some late-night infomercial I couldn't turn off. And before you think I'm some Scrooge who never helps anyone, no. I've always handled our finances carefully. She liked to spend, I liked to save. We were already juggling credit card balances and pretending brunch mimosas counted as networking. The idea of tossing $25,000 to her ex's half-baked startup was like being asked to light a fire with our mortgage papers. I rubbed my temples. You realize this has to be a joke, right? She looked genuinely hurt, as if I'd insulted her integrity. Why would I joke about something this important? I didn't answer right away. I just stared at the stack of papers between us, color-coded tabs, highlighted costs, even a pitch letter she must have written herself. The amount of effort screamed premeditation. How long has she been planning this? Finally, I asked the only thing that made any sense in that moment. You're serious? Her answer came quietly, with a calmness that still makes my skin crawl. She nodded once, without an ounce of hesitation, her expression unreadable except for one undeniable truth. She'd already made her choice. That nod changed everything. It wasn't anger yet, just disbelief layered over a sinking ache in my gut. I saw the marriage tilt right there, like a boat taking on water. I didn't yell. I didn't even move. I just sat in silence while she gathered her papers back up like she'd just shared the most reasonable idea in the world. It's wild how betrayal doesn't always come in the form of cheating. Sometimes it comes printed on premium paper in full color, with your spouse explaining why funding her ex-boyfriend is a smart family investment. Rewind how we got here. You don't just wake up one morning to your wife demanding money for her ex without there being a long, messy buildup. Looking back, I can see the curve forming months, honestly, years before this. It didn't start with bad ideas or betrayal. It started with comfort. When I met her, I was at that sweet spot where mistake meets redemption. I'd crawled out of debt from a failed business and was starting over, smarter, humbler, determined never to live past my means again. She loved that about me. She said it made her feel safe. Her exact word. She liked that I wasn't a gambler, that I budgeted, planned, and never missed a bill. Safety was romantic back then, but as time went on, safe slowly morphed into boring. At first, it was small things. She'd roll her eyes when I used coupons or compared prices. Then it became bigger stuff, vacations we couldn't afford, designer purses she insisted we deserved, dinners that ended with our card maxed out. I figured it was temporary, a phase. I told myself she was just finding her footing, that maybe being a little generous was good for both of us. But she wasn't after joy, she was after image. The shift I couldn't ignore came the year I bought her that car. It was supposed to be a gift, a celebration for finishing her degree and landing a job she loved. I went all in on it. The way she lit up picking the color, the trim, even naming it. Honestly, that might have been the happiest I'd ever seen her. It wasn't a car, it was her personality wrapped in chrome. And without realizing it, I just handed her the ultimate trophy, proof she'd made it. From there, something quietly changed. She started treating what we had like a resource to manage, not to share. The new outfit here, spontaneous spa weekend there, always confident I'd figure it out. I started feeling less like a partner and more like an accountant with emotions. Still, I chalked it up to stress. We were both tired, working hard, chasing stability. And then out of nowhere, her past walked right back in, wearing nostalgia as perfume. It started innocently, a mention of her ex, Jason, at dinner one night. I remember she laughed when she told me he'd finally found direction. I didn't think much of it until she said, he's starting his own business. The way her face softened when she said it, I should have known. She didn't talk about anyone else like that. At first, I shrugged it off. Exes fade into memory if the bond's truly gone. But Jason didn't fade. He lingered. I'd catch his name now and then, stories slipping into conversations, casual mentions that felt too casual. He just needs a little support, she'd say. You should admire his persistence. I wasn't jealous. I was puzzled. Why was she still his cheerleader? Then came the late-night texting. She said they were discussing advice for his pitch deck because he valued her opinion. I wanted to believe that. I did. But when the call started, not quick, casual ones, but long, private ones in another room, I stopped pretending I didn't feel the draft of something cold creeping in. I'd wake up at midnight to an empty bed and find her downstairs on the couch, whispering into her phone like she was afraid of waking someone who wasn't me. When I asked, she said it was business stuff, that he just needed guidance. I reminded her she wasn't a consultant. She managed social media for a marketing firm. She rolled her eyes. I'm just helping a friend. You're overthinking. I dropped it, mostly because picking fights over old friends fell beneath me. I thought maybe she'd get bored of the nostalgia trip. Spoiler, she didn't. Instead, it started shaping everything around us. She'd compare him to people we knew, to me, sometimes without even realizing it. He was brave, creative, taking big risks. The subtext was clear. I wasn't. I was the safe, predictable one. The guy who kept the lights on but didn't dream big. There was one night that still stings. We were watching a movie about some underdog inventor who makes it big. She said out of nowhere, "You used to be like that before you got scared of failing again." I laughed it off, but that sentence stuck like a splinter. Because she wasn't wrong about me being cautious. What she was wrong about was calling that fear instead of wisdom. By then, we'd stopped really talking about anything real. Conversations were logistics, budgets, timelines. Her phone, though, that stayed lively. Every ping made my stomach drop a little further. I wasn't paranoid. I never thought she was cheating, not in the romantic sense. But emotionally, she was investing somewhere else, and it wasn't in me. The first real red flag came wrapped as generosity. She mentioned one day that she'd sent a little something to help Jason get started. I assumed it was sentimental talk. Then, during a random budgeting check, I noticed money missing. Small chunks at first, then bigger ones. When I asked, she said it was for a shared opportunity. She smiled like we were partners in it, like we were part of some noble cause. I remember sitting there, looking at her pretty confident face, realizing she had no idea what loyalty meant to me anymore. What hurt wasn't the money. It was the ease with which she dismissed my concern. "You're acting like I gave it to a stranger," she said. Exactly, I thought. By that point, trust wasn't eroding, it was gone. I started keeping track of what left our account, noticing the timestamps. Every withdrawal seemed to coincide with one of her advice calls. It was all connected, and deep down, I think she knew I was catching on. She'd cover it with a soft tone and words, like, "You worry too much," or "Don't be so cynical." Manipulation wrapped in affection. And yet, I didn't explode. I didn't pack my bags. I just watched, waiting to see where it would lead. Part of me hoped it would fizzle out, but instead, it built pressure, as if she were waiting to make one grand request that would make her the hero in her own story. That's the thing about betrayal that doesn't involve cheating. Quieter, but somehow sharper. It doesn't ignite all at once. It leaks into your everyday life until one day you realize the person sitting across from you doesn't see you as a partner anymore, just an obstacle between them and whatever fantasy they're trying to fund. From that point on, our home wasn't a partnership. It was a ticking conflict waiting for one ridiculous sentence to set it off. The sentence came soon enough. "I need you to help Jason's business." And the moment those words left her mouth, I finally saw how we got there. It wasn't about Jason's dream. It was about the slow erosion of ours. The ex's business, a sinking ship. Jason. The name alone could send my blood pressure up a few notches, mostly because of how casually it kept sliding into conversations I never wanted to have. By the time the investment proposal landed on my coffee table, I knew enough about this man to write a thesis, one that would end with the words "case study in failure." Here's the thing about Jason. He was the kind of guy who always almost made it. The nearly successful type. The guy who said I was this close 100 different times and blamed the universe every single time it didn't pan out. When we first met, yes, I actually met him once at a mutual friend's barbecue. He was bragging about an app that lets you rent other people's parking spaces. I remember asking a few polite questions about logistics, and he immediately started talking like a mix between Steve Jobs and a motivational speaker. 6 months later, the website link didn't even work. The man had a gift for collecting investors and losing them in equal measure. Bankruptcies, lawsuits, unpaid credit cards. It was like a greatest hits album of failure. A professional dreamer who treated everyone else's savings like scratch-off tickets. And somehow, my wife looked at that chaos and saw potential. When I did some quiet digging online, the pattern jumped right out. 2 LLCs dissolved within 18 months, a few angry Yelp reviews about unfulfilled pre-orders, and 1 lawsuit from a former partner claiming Jason diverted funds. My favorite part? The partner one. Jason never paid, and the business at the heart of all this? A cafe that doubled as an innovation hub. Translation, overpriced coffee and Wi-Fi with motivational posters on the walls. And that, apparently, was the kind of brilliance my wife wanted me to get behind. She didn't describe it as chaos. She used words like visionary and underdog. He just needs a boost, she said, like we were talking about someone who'd run out of gas halfway to success. I asked her if she'd ever considered why someone keeps almost making it and never actually does. She said, without irony, "You don't understand how entrepreneurship works." Oh, believe me, I did. I'd been there, bleeding money into a dying company, living on instant ramen while trying to pretend deadlines and debt collectors didn't exist. I'd lived the ugly parts of starting over, the kind that strip you bare. But I learned from it. Jason, on the other hand, just learned new excuses. The more I read through his business plan, the more absurd it became. It looked professional. Charts, projections, fancy fonts, but the ideas inside, ridiculous. It was some bizarre gadget designed to enhance coffee consumption experiences. Basically, a Bluetooth-enabled coffee cup that tracked how much caffeine you consumed and synced with an app that gave encouraging notifications. I couldn't believe those words were printed on paper by someone who turned 30. He wasn't building technology. He was selling nonsense with a confident smile. I sat at my desk late one night, just staring at that document she'd handed me, trying to find one line that made sense. The numbers didn't add up. The margins were optimistic to the point of fiction. Right there in the risk section, he'd actually written, "Emotional investors will see beyond immediate ROI." My jaw dropped. Emotional investors. He meant her. Every line reeked of manipulation. The kind that preys on people who want to feel like heroes in somebody else's story. And the worst part? She'd completely bought it. In her mind, helping him wasn't charity, it was redemption. For him, sure, but also for her own ego. She liked the drama, the idea that she was saving a man who once broke her heart. There's power in that to people who crave validation more than peace. I started noticing smaller signs that she was already knee-deep. Receipts tucked into her purse for consulting sessions at coffee shops I'd never heard of. Random Venmo transfers labeled as project support or materials. The pieces were adding up fast. One afternoon, while she was in the shower, I scrolled through our joint account and saw multiple payments to an account under his business name. Thousands, not hundreds. My stomach turned. It was like discovering infidelity, except the affair was with a bank account. When she came out, wrapped in a towel, humming like nothing had happened, I just asked, "Hey, what's this payment for?" Instant defensiveness. "Why are you checking the account?" "I manage the bills," I said flatly. "Answer the question." She fiddled with her hair and said, "I told you, I'm helping him get started. It's an investment." Don't make it sound shady. I laughed. I couldn't help it. "You gave your ex-boyfriend thousands of dollars for a Bluetooth coffee cup startup, and I'm making it sound shady?" Her face hardened. "He's not just my ex. He's a friend. And he actually has passion, something you've lost." There it was, the dagger disguised as observation. Passion. That word again. It wasn't about Jason's business. It was about nostalgia for who she used to be when she was with him. Idealistic, spontaneous, reckless. And I was the safe, boring anchor keeping her from floating back into that chaos. I didn't argue anymore. Arguing felt useless with someone living in a movie in her head. Instead, I took notes, mental and actual ones, because I knew this wasn't ending with a polite disagreement. There was a storm brewing, and her faith in Jason's fantasy was the thunder rolling in. Within a few weeks, she started calling it our project. "Once the prototype's done," she said one morning, sipping coffee ironically from the very mug that would soon symbolize our downfall, "you'll see it's worth it." I almost admired the delusion. Almost. What she didn't know was that I'd already called one of Jason's supposed suppliers. The number listed on his documents was a disconnected line. His website had placeholder text, literally lorem ipsum paragraphs, filling pages that should have had product descriptions. And the company address? A rented co-working space that offered free mail forwarding. The entire foundation was smoke and mirrors. One night, curiosity pushed me to check his social media. His posts were all hustle memes, inspirational quotes, and photos of him at coffee shops grinding. The comments section was flooded with hashtags like Dream Big and hashtag Rise and Brew, his product slogan. The man had branded failure as perseverance and somehow convinced my wife it was noble. By then, frustration had turned into something sharper, betrayal. Because it wasn't just that she believed in him, it was that she didn't believe me. I was the one holding our finances together, the one she came home to, the one she didn't trust with truth anymore. When I confronted her again, it wasn't even a fight at first. I just said calmly, "You're risking everything for someone who doesn't even have a functioning website." She shook her head, pitying me. "You've forgotten what it means to take chances." Isn't that sad? I looked at her, really looked, and realized I wasn't married to a partner anymore. I was married to an audience applauding someone else's performance. After that conversation, something in me solidified. No yelling, no drama, just quiet certainty. I started reviewing every account, documenting every transfer, all in neat order. Because if she wanted to merge our lives with Jason's fantasy world, she was going to discover what accountability felt like. And that's when I understood why this whole thing hurt as much as it did. It wasn't about the money or even Jason's ridiculous coffee gadget. It was about watching the person I built a life with trade loyalty for illusion. If she wanted to invest in a sinking ship, fine. But I was done going down with it. Ultimatum. Dinner that night should have been ordinary. Chicken, rice, and our usual dance of polite silence. But halfway through her second glass of wine, she put her fork down, straightened in her chair, and said it like she'd rehearsed it all day. "I need to talk to you about something serious." I already knew. My stomach sank before she even said the words. "It's time we make the investment official," she said. Her tone was calm, almost businesslike. "Jason's ready to launch production, and he needs partners he can trust." I told him we'd be on board. "We." That word made my skin crawl. I set my fork down slowly. "How much are we talking?" She slid an envelope across the table like a contract in a movie. Inside, neatly typed pages, loan agreements, percentages, and handwritten notes in her looping cursive about family equity. At the top of one page, she'd circled the number, $25000. I almost laughed. I thought maybe the wine had hit me wrong. "You're actually handing me paperwork for your ex-boyfriend's failing company?" She crossed her arms. "It's not failing, it's growing. And I'm not handing you paperwork. I'm giving you an opportunity to do the right thing." I stared at her, waiting for the crack in the facade, the sheepish smirk that would tell me this was still some absurd misunderstanding. Instead, she looked at me like I was the one losing it. "You're serious," I said flatly. "I am. I believe in him. This could change his life, and ours." I took a deep breath, trying to steady the pulse rising in my neck. "You mean the guy who's already taken thousands of our money and hasn't delivered a single thing? That man?" She brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture arrogant and dismissive. "God, you always see the negative. You think everything's a scam if it's not your idea." "It doesn't have to be my idea to be stupid," I said. "Why is this suddenly our problem?" Her eyes narrowed. "Because we're a team, or at least I thought we were." That line hit harder than it should have. I laughed under my breath. A team doesn't funnel savings to an ex who's auditioning for Shark Tank in his garage. "You don't understand loyalty," she snapped. "Money shouldn't matter between us." And there it was, the lifeline she always grabbed when logic cut too deep. Money shouldn't matter. Easy to say when she wasn't the one keeping track of balances to stay afloat. "Loyalty," I repeated. "To who?" "Because it doesn't sound like you mean me." She went quiet for a second, then folded her arms again, chin tilted high. "You're jealous." I blinked. "Of what exactly?" "Of his ambition. The fact that he's still trying. You used to be like that, but now you're stuck playing it safe." I leaned back in my chair, staring at her across the table. "You want to call throwing money at a man-child ambition? That's not ambition, that's midlife denial with a PowerPoint. He's a magician. Every time he fails, he makes someone else's savings disappear." She exhaled sharply, pushing her plate away. "You've become so bitter. You can't stand seeing anyone else taking chances because you failed once." The line stung because it grazed the truth. I had failed once, badly, but I'd learned from it. I'd rebuilt. I'd clawed us both into stability, and now she wanted to undo it so she could feel like a savior. I looked down at the envelope she'd given me, the papers neatly stacked and expected, like they were waiting for my signature. Then I looked back at her. "No," I said quietly. She blinked. "What?" "No, we're not doing this." Her expression cracked, shocked into silence by how calm I sounded. "You don't get to make that decision alone," she said finally. "I do when it's my income funding your ex's fantasy. I do when your generosity becomes financial infidelity." Color drained from her face. "You make it sound dirty." "It is dirty," I said. "It's deceit, dressed as kindness. You're not helping him. you're trying to relive some part of yourself that doesn't exist anymore. For a heartbeat, I thought she might break, show guilt, regret, anything human. Instead, she let out a humorless laugh. You know what? This proves everything I've been saying. You don't believe in me or anyone. You only care about control. You're selfish. I stood up, sliding the envelope back to her. If saying no to stupidity makes me selfish, then fine. Call me Ebenezer Scrooge with better math skills. Do not mock me, she snapped, eyes wet, but not from sadness, from fury. I'm trying to help someone who deserves it. And I'm trying to protect the house we live in, I shot back. Pick which one matters. She slammed her hands on the table. You're impossible. Good, I said. Maybe that'll make me unforgettable when Jason needs another sponsor. Silence hung there, heavy and dangerous. We just stared at each other, the kind of stare people give when they both know something's already broken, but neither wants to admit it. Finally, she grabbed the envelope, shoved it into her purse, and muttered, I'll handle it myself. I didn't stop her. I didn't say another word while she stomped upstairs. I just sat there, staring at the empty chair she'd left behind, the wine glass still half full, lipstick print glaring at me like a warning. That's when I understood the partnership was over. Maybe not on paper yet, but in every way that mattered. The woman who once said she trusted me with her life now trusted a man who couldn't pay his own Wi-Fi bill. The next morning, the house felt colder. Her chair at breakfast stayed empty, the silence a little heavier than usual. She moved through the kitchen without a word, keys jingling, perfume clouding the air. Before she left, she paused at the door and said without turning around, You'll regret not believing in me. The door clicked shut. I sat there with my coffee cooling in my hand and whispered under my breath, I already do. That was the real breaking point, the moment I stopped feeling angry and started feeling free. Something in me just switched off. I wasn't going to convince her anymore, argue, or justify logic. The boundary was set in concrete. No more money, no more discussions, no more rescuing someone determined to drown herself in someone else's fantasy. She could call me selfish. Fine. But I wasn't funding betrayal disguised as generosity. Not again. The breaking point. The silence that followed that night felt heavier than any argument we'd ever had. It wasn't the kind that cools down after a fight. It was the kind that lingers, thick and sharp like smoke after a fire. Every morning became a performance. She'd pour her coffee with that mechanical grace, tapping her spoon like a metronome while I sat across from her pretending to read emails. We were two strangers sharing a kitchen, pretending to share a life. The first few days, I thought maybe she'd come around. Maybe she'd see how absurd it all was. But instead, she went into full-blown martyr mode. Eye rolls, one-word answers, and that smug little shrug when I asked if something was wrong. You made it clear where you stand, she said one morning, lowering her mug slowly, so don't expect sympathy when things fall apart. I didn't ask her to explain. I was too tired of decoding nonsense. Then little signs started showing up. A credit card alert here, an email receipt there, payment confirmation, merchant transfer, thanks for your purchase. Each one a breadcrumb leading me closer to the truth I already suspected. She hadn't stopped sending Jason money. She'd just gotten quieter about it. I started checking every account manually, logging transactions at night while pretending to watch TV. Every time I saw another mysterious withdrawal, labeled consultation or personal expense, a fresh layer of anger pressed against my ribs. It wasn't even about the amounts anymore. It was about the audacity. She knew I'd said no. She knew how much this mattered. Yet there she was, moving money around like a high schooler sneaking out past curfew. I looked at the numbers and thought about the bills we'd postponed, the groceries I'd cut corners on, the savings we'd planned to rebuild. Every dollar she sent felt like a crack forming in the walls around us. One night, while she was in the shower, I opened our shared banking app. The latest transfer, $2,000 even, was marked Project Support. My hand shook, not from shock, but from the sheer volume of rage I was swallowing. I wasn't a confrontational guy. I'd always believed in calm, reason, facts. But there's something about watching your partner lie to your face that shatters any illusion of civility. When she came out in her robe, brushing her hair, I asked, wanted to explain the new transfer. She froze, not long enough to feign ignorance, just long enough to calculate her angle. What transfer? I held up my phone. The one labeled Project Support. The one that left our account yesterday. She sighed, exasperated, like I was the one exhausting her. You're not seriously checking daily now, are you? I am, actually, because apparently I'm married to a charity foundation without consent. Her eyes narrowed. It's our money. That's when something broke. The calm, the patience, the fragile layer of civility we danced around for weeks. No, I said slowly, every word deliberate. It's the money I earn that we agreed to manage together. Agreements you clearly think don't apply to you if they interfere with your hero complex. That hit. Her expression twisted, not guilt, but offense. Wow, you really think so little of me. I think a lot of you, I said, voice low. That's why I married you. But lately, you've been doing everything possible to make me regret it. She crossed her arms like a judge passing a sentence. This is why people leave, because no one believes in them. Jason's trying. He's putting himself out there, on my dime. I snapped. Do you hear yourself? You're defending the guy you used to date for stealing our money. She flinched, but didn't back down. He didn't steal it. I gave it willingly. If you had an ounce of compassion, compassion has a budget, I cut in. So does marriage. And you've overdrawn on both. Her face reddened, eyes glossy now, but still defiant. You always have to be right. You always have to control everything. I laughed, bitter and quiet. Right? No. Just not stupid. And control? You handed that off the second you made him our third bank account. Control. That word again, her favorite weapon. I'm not trying to control you, I said. I'm trying to stop you from financially chain, linking us to a con artist who couldn't manage a checking balance if it came with an instruction manual. Don't call him that, she yelled. And just like that, the truth slipped out in her tone. She wasn't defending fairness, she was defending him. The silence that followed was worse than the shouting. It was that kind of dead air where two people realize something irreversible has just been said. She turned away first, muttering under her breath, You've changed. Maybe I had. Maybe the man who once bent over backward to keep peace was finally tired of folding. I walked upstairs, closed the door, and sat on the edge of the bed, the faint sound of her angry pacing echoing through the floorboards. The next few days were colder than winter. No good mornings, no kisses, not even the sarcastic ones. She cooked for herself, left dishes in the sink like small rebellions. I didn't chase her. I just started quietly preparing, checking every account, moving my direct deposits into a separate one under my name, reviewing what assets were legally mine. That's when I stumbled across something that made my stomach twist.